This is the High School Crossfire. Welcome back.
This House believes the recent executive appointments were to satisfy the President's political interests and not the interests of the citizens. Panel today, Team Negative clearly fails to understand the interpretation of this resolution. They come and they present to us the recent appointments where Museveni changed the cabinet. But if we're to actually break down this resolution, we notice that the recent executive appointments were to satisfy, meaning that all the arguments and the case that Team Negative presents to us is factually untrue, because they are basing all their arguments on predictions that these people are actually going to work, making their entire case irrelevant and untrue. So, to move on, yes, as they also come here and tell us that these people who are actually replaced have been proven and these people are qualified. But being qualified is not a guarantee that you are actually going to work. So they're basically basing their entire case on actually predictions. They're not coming and presenting us real statistics. They forget that the resolution that we are debating is actually to see whether these recent appointments were to satisfy. Not these recent appointments are going to satisfy. That is the resolution that they are debating. So they fail to understand what exactly this resolution entails. Secondly, now, as Team Affirmative, we come to clearly present your case and show you exactly how the executive appointments were to satisfy the president's political interest, that is which my first speech mentioned as power, and not the citizens' interest. I'll get back to you. So to start my speech, we acknowledge that the fact that these executive appointments have actually enabled the president to maintain his political standing. To continue from where our first speech ended stopped, we noticed as Team Affirmative that the president has the desire to continuously attain the presidential office, and in no way does it satisfy the interest of the citizens. There is clear exclusivity. We notice that the president will sack any person, competent or not, if you are a threat to his stay in power. And in this, we notice an exclusivity in the citizens' interest. To further justify this, according to the newvisionreport.com, we notice that Eria Kategeya, who was against the lift of the consecutive term limit of the 1995 constitution, was immediately sacked by the president with his counterpart Miriam Matembe on June 11, 2003. That is 3 years to the next general elections. We notice the pattern. When the term limit was lifted, Eria and our president had reconciliation talks, and we saw him being promoted to Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of East African Affairs, meaning that if you are in support of the president's stay in power, you shall reside in the executive's offices forever. But we noticed that whereas Miriam Matembe, who remained vocal against the lift in this term limit, never returned, our president removed an efficient minister of ethics and integrity who had so many fruits. That is, she addressed fighting corruption by forming the CCEDU, and she also staged campaigns against domestic violence and promoted girl child empowerment. The president clearly removed a minister who was competent and fulfilled the citizens' interest, all in the names that he wanted to stay in power. And this shows the exclusivity of the citizens' interest. Secondly, as Team Affirmative, we believe that the executive appointments have actually maintained his political reputation. We've noticed that to fulfill a perfect political reputation, the president has promoted transparency, but not accountability. We say that he sacks corrupt ministers, but the stolen funds are actually not accounted for. Agnes Nanditu was sacked, yes. But where was the funds recovered? Was the iron sheets recovered that she stole? Were they? They were not. So we noticed that these funds, all these embezzled funds, are actually not recovered. And in this, we notice a step back in the service delivery, in the socio-economic development of the citizens, which we characterize as their interests. And according to the Daily Monitor of 28 December 2019, we see Irene Mulonyi, the Minister of Energy and Mineral Development at that time, was questioned by the Speaker of Parliament where the 24 billion that was allocated for the construction of Karuma Isimi Dam went, and she clearly had no accountability, so she was sacked. But after this, what do we notice? She was immediately raised to the senior presidential advisor. She was neither prosecuted nor punished, neither were these funds recovered. And what do we notice from this? In turn, this led to a backload in Uganda, and the service delivery was not sustainable. Thank you. I rest my case.
The panel, the 2026 sides. Resolve. This House believes that the recent executive appointments were to satisfy the president's political interests and not the interests of the citizens. So the panel, in today's resolution, Team Affirmatives come and they characterize for us the recent executive appointments as the appointments that were made from the early 2000s up to date. But from our first speech, we clearly find out that we don't agree to characterize these recent executive appointments in that way. We actually came and we told you that these recent executive appointments, we should look at the ones that have been made of recent, as of 21st March of this year. That's what we came up and presented as Team Negative. And why shouldn't we consider those ones that have been given before? You find that the presidential term keeps on shifting. Realize this is a new regime. It's a new regime, and last time there was another regime, 2016, this was another regime. And now this time, the president is another regime, shift another regime. So characterizing it in the way they're presenting 2000 to early, up to a date will not stand, but rather let's look at the current one that happened 21st March 2024. And even though we argue the case, and they come and they tell us that actually the president's interest is to stay in power as the head of state, the citizens' interest is socio-economic development, and their panel, they come and they tell us that the president, these appointments have enabled the president to maintain his political power, and that the president will sack anyone competent or not against his ideas. But dear panel, remember that, first of all, Uganda is a democratic nation, and democracy lies in the hands of the citizens. So whether the president wants actually these people to push for his ideas or not, as long as the citizens don't vote him, you find that he's not going to stand in today's debate. And further speaking, that they come and argue that even though we say that these appointments are not made only by the president, but we actually have a vetting committee of parliament, but realize the actual qualifications they look at. And even though they come and said Honorable Salim Saleh was appointed to a ministerial post in 2016. But now, when you look at their case, Honorable Salim Saleh was appointed to a ministerial post. This may be because of his qualification, and the cabinet of the parliament, the appointment committee actually voted and qualified him for that. I'll take you later. So, coming back to our case, why we rather argue that these recent executive appointments are to satisfy the interests of the citizens that she asked us, the recent appointment as of 21st March 2024. So first of all, the individual's ability to serve the citizens. So realize that these people who have been appointed, they're actually able to serve the citizens. First things first, these people, for example, Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who was appointed to CDF, first of all, you find that they're well qualified, he's well qualified and he's experienced, and he actually plays a big role. The citizens' interest, how we characterize in our case, is social service delivery. So these people actually play a big role in the social service delivery of the country.
POI.
And someone like, granted.
Is corruption a qualification for leadership?
Corruption is not a qualification for leadership. That's why the Iron Sheet scandal, PT2, Rebecca Kadaga, who are still in court actually, were sacked from their ministerial posts and they brought in other people. That shows corruption actually doesn't qualify for those posts. And further, you find that these people actually played a very big role. They actually play a big role in the service delivery. Someone like Balam Barogahara, who is actually experienced and has a doctorate in humanities, who has been working with the youth. So this actually gives a bigger, how does it actually come to the interest of the citizens, these appointments? They actually give a bigger incentive for them to work for the youth's interest, for the interest of the citizens, in that it's going to improve on the service delivery, and it's going to provide practical solutions to the problems which are affecting the citizens. You find that some problems that are affecting the citizens are problems these people actually on ground, they see what's happening to the citizens, and they know the problems that the citizens undergo, and they can bring practical solutions. For example, one person who is a very big critic of the government, who was Honorable Moses, actually tweeted in November last year that he's actually listening to the outcry of the people, and he's with the people, but what NRM has started doing doesn't represent the people of Uganda. This actually shows that he's actually a critic of the government, and these things that the government is doing, once he was integrated into the executive of the government, you find that he can be able to see the situation, actually solve them, and that's how it's going to promote the interests of the citizens of practical solutions, and it's going to improve on the service delivery, because these people will actually serve the citizens, and it's not going to serve the president's interest, because first of all, Uganda is a democratic nation. With this, I beg to rest my case.
This is the High School Crossfire. We'll be back in a minute.